Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Vault. Today I have Kris from the Inside Out podcast, which I'm so pumped to have you here today with me, Kris, and we've got so much to chat about. So thank you firstly for joining me for this conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and bounce this conversation off you, be a part of it. It's really exciting.
Yeah, love it. For those listening, so Kris has her own podcast, but she's also doing a million other things. So she's an NLP practitioner, a mindset coach. She's a mum of two, a stepmama of two as well. Very busy. And your podcast, Kris, is around sort of health, mental health, relationships, parenting, etc. So certainly synergies with ours as well. So, all right, let's cut straight to the caller for today.
What keeps me awake at night? Well, I think the main topic sort of changes depending on how my day's gone. Last night I was wondering about what daycare days I will get for next year, and it's only July and we have to plan that far ahead. But generally I have a pattern that I cipher through, and for me it always comes back to the mental load. Trying to be the best mum, trying to be the best at my job, keeping the house going, trying not to come off as a crazy person to my husband. Definitely failed for the last one. We're renovating, we're, doing plans with the architect. So, some of those things, but also looking at houses to see what's the best option, whether we should be buying instead of renovating. And I go to bed pretty late as I work most nights. So once I'm in bed, I generally run through what's left for the week ahead. I'm remembering all the things I didn't get to do that day and then putting them on my mental list to do for tomorrow. But I must admit, if I have had a productive day and I do have one or two areas of my life running smoothly, then I'm generally going off to sleep quickly and with a smile. The other day we cleaned both cars inside and out. And oh my gosh, I felt great about that. It's probably a bit strange, but leaving the house in a clean car inside and out, it doesn't happen very often in this weather. And also with children eating in your car. And yes, I must admit it didn't last long either, but cooking is another big one for me. I really, really dislike cooking, but do about 99% of it in our house. And we also have a really fussy eater. So managing his eating has been my number one biggest parenting challenge. So if I haven't planned out the dinner for the week, then that plays on my mind big time. So sort of once I've gone through my to-do list and all of those things on your mental load, sometimes then I'll finish on the fact that we tried for a third child for a little while back and carried two of the babies to past 12 weeks, but both ended in a miscarriage. So once I've done all my to-do list, this is often what's left on my mind, the what ifs. Should we try again? Maybe I'm too scared, too tired, definitely too old. That's sort of how my night runs in my head. And I try and always finish on being grateful and thinking about who's next to me and who the little people in the rooms next to ours. But yeah, often it is that mental load and there's just no way past it.
All right, Kris. So I feel like I listened to this confession and I was like, oh my God, preach. This is mum's mental load, just something that we deal with on the daily, right? I don't know, is the mental load as big an issue for you as it is for me?
Of course. And I think just the endless to-do list and the overwhelm that comes with that burnout feeling of I have to do this and then this and then this and then this and then I can do this. You know what I mean? It just feels like it doesn't actually end and there's always more to do. And even often it's the first waking thought we have of a morning or it's the last thing we think before we go to sleep. And that mental load weighs so heavily on our bodies and our mindsets and our businesses and our parenting experiences if we're not asking for support or finding a way to make this list work for us that supports our entire journey, whatever we're experiencing. It can really weigh us down and become quite a big burden as well.
Absolutely. And I think if we have such high expectations on ourselves, which a lot of us do, right? This caller even said, I get to the end of my day and I'm just thinking about all the stuff that I didn't do and all the things I have to do tomorrow. And, and I have that as well. I don't know if you can relate too, but I'm like, was that good enough? Did I waste too much time here? The kids distracted me. I could have done 100 other things and it's that constant kind of judgment I find. I don't know. Do you do that as well?
Absolutely. One of the greatest tools, I suppose, that I've been working on myself myself doing and also supporting my clients to be doing, because this mental load, you're not alone. This is so normal and common, and every mum is experiencing this. If you are working on top of motherhood, you are just in the trenches of that endless to-do list. So I fully see you and I hear you, and I am with you on this journey, right? And something that I have started doing, is utilizing the to-do list. So I've started mapping out my day from the start, from the moment I wake up to the very end of the day. And this is something that has been supporting clients. And then whatever comes up in my head, I add to the list. Okay, add to the list. And then it's physically leaving my mind and being put down pen to paper. And with that list, there's two parts to it. It's what has to be done today and what can be done this week. Right? So there's no urgency. And I know that I get everything done in that way. It really allows me to not forget things. It allows me to feel like I've got space to do the things that I need to get done that day. And it doesn't add pressure.
Yeah, I'm such a list taker as well. And I do it in the same way, in that the things on the top of my list, or the things with like little asterisks next to or whatever, they're the ones that by the end of the day, let's make sure we've sort of gotten on top of. I think you're right. It is really getting it out of your head, because otherwise you're just a spinning top. And then there's all the pressures as well, I guess, as a family, in our audience, there are dads who listen as well. So, similar sort of stresses around, this caller brought up the fact that, do we renovate or do we buy, or what, where are we going to live, and I'm going through that at the moment as well. Too. Are you? So with us, we're looking potentially to make that next step and purchase that new home, but, it's a big decision, and you've got to think about where your kids are going to go to school and all the things, and where your life is, and and just trying to get all of that right. It's really hard. Like, are you going through a similar thing?
Super similar. So for us, we have a family of 6. So I have 2 girls that are 11 and 12, one going into high school next year, and then I have the 2 babies who are 3.5 and 2. So what that looks like for us is noticing in our existing house, which is we've got the 5 bedrooms now. We have 2 family rooms, but noticing that the toy room it was meant to be for the 4 kids, and it is not. It is for the babies. There's just all their stuff in there, and they watch their shows in there. The girls only have their rooms. So when they're looking for their own space away from the babies, they're just with us. And so we don't, us as adults, don't have our own space unless we go to our room. And noticing that doesn't work for us as they're getting older, and they need that space and freedom as well. So for us, we're like, okay, do we get a small shitty house and either knock it down or renovate, or do we go and find a 5-bedroom home with a teenage retreat and a pool? It's like, oh my God, money does grow on trees, but it's, it's going to have to be a huge home. So financially there's, the considerations there, but also knowing if we're going to invest into going and buying the house, then we need to do what's right for our entire family. So what will the babies need as they grow? What will the girls need? We want, for me, one of the things that I've envisioned is having a really long driveway, because I'm going to have 2 driving teenagers in 5 years time. So I need their cars to be able to be parked safely, and have that space for them too. So it's interesting, the dynamics in my household right now, what I'm having to consider for the future with this next purchase or opportunity to renovate.
It's interesting as well, I guess, having the children at different age groups, right? For myself, exactly the same as you. I've got the 2-year-old and 3.5-year-old. But for us, we're sitting there going, okay, so this could be a purchase for now, i.e. up till high school. And then high school, we may reassess and we may sort of see where we're at and look for, the bigger space or whatever it looks like. But I guess for yourself, you've already got the high school children as well. So you're kind of probably thinking of more of a long-term nest egg. Essentially.
And then we think, okay, so we, maybe in the future we just then can downgrade to a 3-bedroom again once they move out. And it's kind of like we also don't want to put that pressure on them or us. And it's all up in the air at the moment. God knows where we'll end up. Totally feeling that in terms of what she was saying, how it's like, what to do, so many decisions. And that just adds to that load, right? That daily mental load.
Does. Oh, it really does. Even one for us at the moment is schools. So we're in Melbourne, and the school systems here, if you're interested in private schools, you pretty much put your kids down from birth. And even then it's pretty competitive, particularly for the boys, to get them into certain schools. Even from a high school age, you put them down at birth. And so at the moment, we've got acceptance to one school, but then it's like, how soon are we going to potentially take them through to the private school? Do we do the public school first? And but then there's the option of the Catholic Catholic school around the corner, and then, but then it depends where we live and we haven't found the house yet, and then we don't want to be driving too far, and then, okay, so, and just all of these things that like when we were footloose and fancy free pre-children, I was just like, I just want to live where it's like, it's happening and it's cool, or like I want to live by the coast. When I lived in Sydney, I was like, I need to live by the beach, and that was it. Like, it's all about me, and that's all I want. And now I'm like, God, so much to think about.
Yeah, totally get that feeling that the girls are in a Catholic school, which is a beautiful school, and I love it. They'll go through to a Catholic high school. There's only one or two private schools here in Newcastle, so there's not that many around, which works fine. Like, I personally won't be sending any of them there. I went through Catholic schooling myself, and I really enjoyed the experience. Where we are in Newcastle, it's kind of like wherever you buy, you'll be near a school. Like, there's schools, there's so many, public and Catholic. So we're really lucky in that regard. But the thing is, now that I have a son, not to be stereotypical in that regard or sexist, but now that I have a son who is already showing interest in, he's 3.5, and he puts boxing gloves on and he runs with a footy and he's kicking a soccer ball, I know this child will be sports interested, and the Catholic schooling system doesn't particularly support that many teams in that primary level, whereas the public system does. So it's like, okay, so what do we do there? Do we allow him to be that kid that gets to play in different teams and sporting teams in primary school, or do we hold him back until he's just, he's just playing his Saturday team or rep? But that's where my head's going with that. And my stepdaughter, who's 11, they have a boys soccer team, not a girls soccer team, and she plays soccer. She plays squad development soccer. She's actually great at it, and she can't play through her school teams because they only have a boys team still.
Is that right? I would have thought that would be pretty contentious particularly these days. Have the parents, asked up about that in the school community?
I'm surprised there hasn't been a change, because she plays in her team, like her local sports team, is all the girls from her school. So like, it's quite, anyway. But that's where our heads are at with the whole schooling thing too.
Yeah. And I mean, another point that you've just raised, and it's so true, like all these extracurricular activities. I'm like, I've been a bit lazy on that front with the boys. I'm like, I quietly say that they haven't really even done swimming lessons yet. Like, we're fortunate that they've been around pools a lot, and that they love the water. And so I'm kind of like, this is good practice, like throw them in and see if they can swim. Like, and it's more for water familiarity and things like that. But certainly I've kind of been putting it off as well, I think, because of COVID. And I'm like, oh, is it a bit mucky in this, in the swimming pools, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I have to get onto that. And then I'm like, I can't even imagine what it's going to look like in a year's time. I don't know, with your little ones, are they involved in any activities?
The babies are in swimming lessons. We've just got them into privates. I was finding the groups were, I was still having to get in even with Jessie. So it was very frustrating because I'm wet and it's cold, it's winter. Like, it's hard enough dressing them, and then I'm sitting there shivering, and now I kept getting sick. So I went on a waiting list for private lessons, and we're finally in, and that's working so well for us. Thank God. They do 15 minutes each, and they are so attentive and they love it. They jump into their teacher. Their experience is completely different. So loving that.
Oh, that's a good one.
We had a bit of a lull through the COVID period, up and down with swimming lessons. It would get closed and then we'd go back in, and it was a bit tricky with that in that regard. But I'm just loving that I don't have to get in the pool anymore. So
yeah, that's what I've been regretting. I'm like, dreading. Who has time for that? It's like my hair won't cope. Like, you smell like chlorine. Like, oh, yuck.
Annoying. It's very annoying, but it's all short-term pain, right? And for Jesse, in the last term, he's now jumping down to the bottom head first, grabbing the toys from the bottom of the pool, pushing himself back up. So for me, I'm just seeing so much development in him as well. And Lola wouldn't go in. Basically would scream the whole time, and now that she started private, she's physically running and jumping to the teacher. And just the security for me. We live 10 minutes from the beach, if that. I've grown up on the beach. I grew up going to all the pools, all friends' places with pools. I grew up knowing where a rip was in the ocean and being confident to get myself out of it. And I want my children to grow up the same. So Jessie will start nippers at the end of next year, which is wild to go so quick. And you can actually start footy here in Newcastle next year, which would be so cute.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we'll get him into both of those too.
And so how are you coping? Like, with, 4 children, everyone has their own activities. How do you do it?
It's team effort. It's understanding, compassion. It's big conversations with little people. It's negotiating times. It's asking for support. My mum is incredible. She has taken afternoons off work to go and take Alexi to soccer. So she's in a development squad, which means 2 training sessions a week. Then this season we had Kelly netball as well. And then, the kids in swimming lessons, which it was actually not too bad, to be honest, because it was something every afternoon. And that was it. So we just know what we have to do every afternoon. There's something to go to. It's just teamwork. And it's explaining to the other 3 that don't have their thing on, hey, you got to chill in the car for an hour. Like, this is what we're doing. It's packing bags, being organized. It's saying, hey, I've got this appointment, or I've got this client at this time, and hubby takes over that night and I do the next time. Complete transparency and teamwork. And to say it's difficult, I totally see how hard it was for my mum doing it for me, but she did do it for me, and it brought me so many beautiful opportunities, friendships, connections, things like that, and life experiences. So I am really passionate about providing my 4 kids with the same.
Yeah, love that. What about clients that you have even? You know, you said that you do a lot of your clients' mothers as well. Yeah, so you said at the start they sort of do come to you with all the mental load. Like, I'm listening to that, I'm like, God, every night you've got something on. Like, I'm not there yet, right? And so I'm, so give me some examples of the type of stresses that they're coming to you with.
It's financial pressures, it's relationship pressures. The motherhood experience for a lot of us, I know you will relate with this, is the burden of everything's on me. But the thing is, the big awakening that we have through the work that we do, it's not all on you. And you need to, your partner's not a mind reader. Talk to them. Let them know. You can't start resenting them for something they don't even know they're doing, because everyone is doing the best with the resources and the tools that they have, right? So it's about becoming really aware of how you can take responsibility for your own life, how you can create ownership for the things that you have in your control. And to get a little bit deeper with you on this, everything is in your control. Every problem in your life is your projection. So how is that you? So discovering, how is this existing challenge my responsibility? How have I created the challenge? That awareness piece, once that lands in, it's like, oh, well, didn't organize the food for the groceries to be delivered last week. And if I had done that in the space instead of scrolling on my phone out of one of the 6 hours of my screen time, I probably would feel a little bit more on top of things this week. And instead of resenting your husband because he got home from work half an hour late on that day and you were overwhelmed that day, taking the ownership of, well, actually, I did this. I created this. This is on me. Cool. So right now, tonight, I'm going to make space and order these groceries for next week so I don't feel this way. So if he's half an hour late for whatever reason, I'm not snapping at him as he walks in the door for something that I can't control. This part is what I can control, how I'm feeling right now. And if we come back down to the mindset of everything being a choice, how you're choosing to feel is a choice. So where can you flip the switch? How can you take control, responsibility, take action, flip the switch, and change how you're feeling with choice?
Yeah, I love that. It's sort of just, as you said, taking that ownership back. What about for those people that would sit there saying, well, you know what, I've got a job too, and then I'm doing these things at home as well, and it's a lot, and then I don't feel like I'm progressing my career as you know, I'm not putting in as much in my career as I was pre-babies, and now I'm stressed and I'm resentful because my partner maybe isn't having a similar experience, and there's a lot, right? What would you say to that around shifting mindset around something like that?
I'd say something needs to give. So what needs to be sacrificed? And I think for a lot of mums, when we have our babies, we have this societal construction and conditioned belief that we have to be these women that don't take up support, don't put our kids in daycare from a certain age. We have to keep them at home with us. We have to breastfeed for this long. There's a lot of expectations, right, that we put on ourselves, not for even from anyone else. They're all our own expectations, right? And some people, myself included, when you let go of that narrative and you, like for me, I was stuck in a belief system of my babies can't go to daycare more than once or twice a week until they're over 1. No way. And then it was at 2. Okay, they can't go more than 3 days. Absolutely not. Not until they're at least in kindergarten. Like, that's just not on. There's no need. There's no need for me to go back to work. But then here I was, that woman sitting at home, resentful, angry. I want to do this, this, and this. My kids are holding me back, being angry at the world and angry at myself for not achieving the dream life that I wanted to achieve, right? But then I really went deep and I integrated what I knew and what I wanted. And I went, okay, something's got to give. I am a better mum working 4 full days a week, dropping my children off at daycare 4 days a week than I was as a mum who had them, 90% of the time. I'm a better mum this way. I get to do what I want to do. And I have created this life of mine with nothing but intention. And it is so aligned with who I am and my own goals. So if that sounds like you, why don't you go inward and have a little look at what do you really want? Whatever that is, whether that's full-time care of your children and you only see them on weekends and before and after school, whatever age they're at, it's okay. Stop judging yourself. Make decisions based on what you want, what life you want to create. Don't compare to what your mum did. Don't compare to what your sister's doing. Do whatever the fuck you want, because how are you going to be happy unless you're giving yourself everything you want and tapping into your desires? You're just going to end up resentful and angry. And where does that then get passed on to? It gets passed on to your husband or your partner or your children, and it makes you crabby and angry at the world. And if you're holding on to that and harnessing that energy in your body, what else is going to happen next? You're going to find too overwhelming. And how long will it take before you burn out?
Yeah. Oh, actually preach to everything you said then. I guess, okay, so I'm going to come at you with all the what ifs, right? So what if, I feel bad because I don't want to spend $150 for my kid to go to daycare that day when I am technically home and could technically work more flexibly. What do you say to people who, and that is a real struggle for some people, have a bit of the financial implications of care. What would you say to that?
What do you need more to invest in time for yourself, to create more energy, for you to do better at your job, to make more money in the future, for you to show up for your children on the weekend, for you to be present with your husband, for you to want to be sexual with your husband? Do you need that time today? Is that $150 for daycare worth it because you will recharge your batteries and you will fill your cup? Or are you making excuses and really you're just being lazy? Work out which one it is and do what feels good for you. Because for me, sometimes I do need to fill my cup. Sometimes that means laying on the lounge and watching Netflix for 8 hours. And sometimes I need to call myself out and say, no, that would be lazy today. You don't actually need that because you just had a great weekend that recharged all your batteries. Your cup feels full. It would be great to do that, but you've got things to do. It's about the awareness of what your mind and what it needs.
Absolutely. And I think, look, even for some people, they might not be sitting in a position where, obviously, I guess what we're trying to say here is figure out what your boundaries are, what is best for you. And obviously, based on family budget and what sort of makes sense for your family, you do what's within the parameters of what is feasible, right? And I guess, but I guess the bigger point here as well is let's take that pressure off. So let's say for the person who sits there going, look, I actually just can't afford that day. It's not within our family budget, can't do it. It's taking the pressure off, I guess, of that person thinking, well, I've got the kids and I'm still going to do this. I'm still going to do 100 things. It's like, well, no, actually, if you have to be at home with your children that day and that's what's best for your family for whatever reason, then you're at home with your children that day. And don't feel bad that you didn't do those 10 loads of washing and you didn't wash your hair and you did it, because that's kind of your job for the day. And it's that pressure point, I think, that we put on ourselves to be super mum, do all the things. And if we're not achieving it all, then we've had a failed day, I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. In the past, that was me all over. Tuesdays are my home day with the kids. Now it's just me and them, and I invest that day to them. And in the past, I would think I have to get on top of the housework. This is my only day at home. I have to take them to the park. Yeah. I have to do this with them. I have to please them in every way. And also, this is my day at home, so the house needs to be perfect. And now, new me, unapologetic, no shame, we actually don't even go to the park because I don't enjoy it. It is too hard. They are pains in the ass. They are horrible to take anywhere. Neither go in a pram now. Getting in and out of the car is horrendous. I had a lady leave her child on the swing and come and help me the other day because she saw how much I was struggling. I had two throwing tantrums. I was trying to hold both and all the bags under my arms. I kept dropping the kids as I'm walking to the car. I'm like, all right, we can do this. You've got this. And this woman comes around. She's like, do you want a hand? I'm like, yeah, okay, that'd be great. So, I get it. But now we don't go to the park. Guess what? We stayed home. They had ice cream at 8:30 yesterday morning because they pulled it out of the freezer together. Don't care. No washing was done. The only thing that got done was Jessie weed on my bed because we're toilet trading right now. So, like, it's being unapologetic with how you're choosing to show up, how you control your own narrative. If I had someone knock on my door and call in, my house was a pigsty. It was actually, I lie, it was spotless in the morning. I had a video shoot and the kids were involved with that yesterday. So it was spotless and trying to keep it clean for that couple of hours in the morning was tricky. But after that, everything was out the window. And I make no apologies for that anymore. Me in the past would have had hubby walk through the door. I'm sorry, this isn't done. I'm sorry. He actually doesn't care, but it's me needing to validate why I haven't done what I expect of me. So removing that expectation from myself.
100%. I mean, already just hearing that, I'm like, oh, I feel less stressed already. You know, like it's almost giving yourself permission to be like, this is okay. You're actually in charge. You know, it's just that little negative voice that sometimes creeps in and those expectations that we were probably brought up with. You know, I was brought up in a household where it's achieve. And if you're not achieving 100% of the time, then what happened? Oh God. Oh, you can't just sit around and do nothing. Oh, that would be lazy, you know, and you know, a lot of us are drilled, you know, are brought up that way. The other thing that came to mind as you were talking, and this is what was mentioned in the confession as well, are fussy eaters and that expectation we put around ourselves around, oh, the kids have to eat. And, you know, here you are at 8 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, ice cream, cheers. I do the Wheat Bix thing. I'm like, I don't care anymore. First child, I was literally like, why is he not eating when he would have his bad days and stuff? And I would feel so bad inside about that. Second child, I eat like now. I'm literally like, guys, just go for it. I don't care. Like it is what it is because I can't take on that stress on top of everything else. Otherwise, I will be a basket case. I don't know. How have you gone on the food front?
Jessie and Lola have been on and off. So Jessie was unreal as a baby. I mean, like fish and broccoli and salmon and whatever I ate, he ate. He was great. Then he got to a certain age and he just went, nah, yuck, see you later. So now we're hiding veggies in spaghetti and, you know, if he'll eat the spaghetti, like now he's fussy with that. Sometimes the dino nuggets and fruit, that's as good as it's going to get for us. And I accept that and I'm okay with it. They eat veggies at daycare. I do not know why I cannot get them to eat them at home. Lola is great. She will I think she had a veggie, like a veggie meat pie last night and had celery and capsicum and mushroom and zucchini and she just chunked it down with me and I was like, sweet. Whereas Jessie had 3 yogurts. Because I gave up. Because I was like, you know what? 1 out of 2 is not so bad. Whatever.
Yeah. Totally. And it is just give it like, and the thing that I struggled with the most with baby number 1 with the food was that in when I grew up, you had to finish everything on your plate and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, well, that's what I have to implement at home as well. But I'm like, how did my parents get me to eat everything on my plate? Because I can't get my kids to do that.
My mum used to strap me to the chair with a belt. Yeah,
really?
You weren't allowed,
It'll be like
you
you're
weren't
not
allowed to leave.
Wow.
So interestingly enough, with one of my stepdaughters, see for them, they are super fussy. So 11 and 10, 12 and 11, super fussy eaters in comparison to what I'm used to. So the elder of the two is doing quite well. They're trying new foods, but they don't like a lot, right? So the texture, their taste buds have formed because between 0 and 7, that's where you're going to form most of your taste buds surrounding the textures and tastes of foods. So for them, we have like this vicious cycle of foods that we just repeat. There's like 3 or 4 meals that is on constant cycle repeat. And one of them, I think I was making it was a slow cooked lamb pie and like shepherd's pie, and I just had some veggies with it. And I made the decision that afternoon. I said, I am not cooking anything else. If you don't like it, no one's like, don't eat. That's it. Baby, everyone, you try it. And if you don't like it, not my problem. I cannot keep cooking 3 meals a night. It's driving me insane. And she was like, I'm not even trying it. I'm not eating it. I'm going to bed. And I was like, okay, go to bed hungry. She's like, okay, fine. And we just had like this standoff for hours with you go to bed hungry. Later she had some fruit before bed. But I tried. Yeah. I went in hard and firm. Yeah. But, it's tricky. It's tricky.
pick your battles sometimes, you know, you try to implement, you know, and you try to encourage, but at the same time, I think, this conversation and about the mental load. I mean, look, just to round out what we're talking about here, we all have so much on our plates, right? Particularly if we're working parents as well. There's a lot going on with children, blah, blah, blah. But let's just shave down that expectation and that negative chat and actually, you know, give ourselves a bit of a break here.
And be super hyper aware of what shame is coming up for you and why specifically. Dig into that. Like, why do you feel this way about this thing? Why does it need to look like this for you? Is it because someone told you that it should? Is it because society told you it should? Is it because your husband expects that it should? Or is it because you're just simply putting that expectation on yourself? Like, to remove that shame, get really clear on why it exists in the first place, and it will really support you to go, well, this actually doesn't suit me anymore. And this narrative or story that I've created isn't working for my family. So how can I support myself now?
Yes, love that. Awesome. Well, for that person who called in, hopefully we're able to give you a few tips and tricks around, around the things that you're dealing with. And trust me, honey, you are not alone. So we are right here with you. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later.